Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of Mindful Monday, which for the first time ever is actually on Tuesday, thanks to an emergency dental appointment for myself yesterday. Anyway, if it's your first time watching, you're welcome to type in the comments where you're coming from. If you have any questions or comments, if you have any topics you'd like to hear covered, you can either DM any of that or put it in comments, as well as if you type the word mindful in comments, you'll receive a link to follow to get a free hypnosis recording as well. Super. So today we're here to talk about how to control your thoughts and transform your life. So the thing about thoughts is we're always thinking, and yet we only occasionally notice our thoughts, and that's usually when they've become troublesome for us. But the mind's job is to think, and it's to think and to protect us from danger. It's constantly categorizing present events and relating them and analyzing them to the past, as well as predicting future events and likely outcomes. And so we have what's called a negativity bias. And this means that our subconscious mind, for our own survival, of course, is constantly looking around and searching out anything that could harm or kill us, where our next meal will be, and where our next beat will be, so that the species can procreate, whether or not we're actively doing that ourselves. And so this is to ensure our own survival, and like I said, the survival of our species. So it really is impossible to stop thinking, and especially on purpose. When we try to do this purposefully, we create what's called a verbal neural pathway, and we then attempt to follow it, which creates the thought, I shouldn't be thinking this, and then we try to follow that pathway, which is also a thought. So trying to stop thinking is kind of impossible. So if I were to say to you, for example, don't think about a purple giraffe. Now, whatever you do right now, don't think about a purple giraffe with a hat on. And so what are you thinking about? Most likely a purple giraffe with a hat on, even though it's ridiculous, right? And so this happens because we're always thinking, and our subconscious mind doesn't necessarily understand a negative directive. So it has to actually think of what we tell it not to think of before it can not think of that. So, Aaron Beck, who's the father of CBT, first started helping folks to get away from troubling thoughts by using distancing, which is a technique of objectively noticing what you are thinking. Now, ACT and MBSR, acceptance commitment therapy, and mindfulness-based stress reduction go a little bit further, saying it's important to look at thought rather than from it, so not being involved in it at the same time, because thought is symbolic. And because it is symbolic because it refers to something, it kind of means something. And this creates an illusion. So that is when we think about something, we feel like we are dealing with it in the present, in the here and now. And this is why you can think about something that happened that was not so great, either yesterday or 10 years ago. And if you think about it long enough, you could get upset all over again. But it's also why we can watch, granted, a fictional movie or read a fictional book and get happy or sad or excited. So it's the use of imagination. That's the way our minds work. So what is the problem with our thoughts? So it's really what we tend to do with them. So we do a couple of things with thoughts automatically. One of them is called cognitive fusion, and this refers to the tendency to allow thoughts to dominate our other sources of behavioral modification and regulation. So by thinking all of our thoughts are our present reality, we say things to ourselves like, I am depressed, or I am so tired of being in constant pain. And our subconscious mind takes these thought statements as literal truths. And this I am, this identifies us to the problem state, which makes it very difficult to see that things don't define us. And the second thing that we tend to do is what's known as experiential avoidance. And this happens when you have a thought that you need to avoid something that's difficult, some kind of difficult experience, because you think it's maybe too much to bear or too hard or too difficult, whatever. And so what happens is you fuse the initial experience, say it's like going to the dentist, right, with the too much to bear, or whatever your catchphrase might be. And so what happens is at first the avoidance feels really good and you get some kind of relief. But that soon passes as the fusion becomes more and more strong. And then any anxiety or whatever negative emotion you do experience from this is going to become significantly amplified each time you do the avoidance, like going to the dentist or anything else, which catches you in a very strong negative loop. which is harder and harder to get out of the stronger it's fused. So what can we do? Well, we can keep track of what we say and think for a time. Watch those I am statements. You can replace the negative I am statements with something like, I am experiencing or feeling anxiety, or I'm experiencing discomfort. You can mindfully observe your thoughts without reacting to them and notice any patterns or categories that are present. And you can avoid avoiding necessary uncomfortable things due to a past experience, as this only strengthens that negative fusion or past association, making the discomfort worse with the avoidance. And then we can do a little exercise, and your PDF that you'll receive next week will have kind of 3 columns that you can kind of utilize, and you can always re-listen to this on YouTube as well if you want to kind of keep track. They recommend keeping track for maybe 2 weeks. And so these techniques are from the book How to Get Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life by Stephen Hayes, which is a great book, just to let you know. All right, so to begin, you're going to kind of imagine that you're standing at a railway bridge and you're kind of gazing down, and there's 3 train tracks, and each one of them has a slow mining train on it, and it's moving away from you. And each train is composed of a string of little cars carrying ore. And it's seemingly endless, but all 3 of these are chugging along slowly underneath this bridge. As you look down, imagine that the train to the left carries only the ore of things that you notice in this present moment. Okay? And this ore is composed of sensations, perceptions, and emotions. It carries things like the sounds you hear, your palms are sweaty, your heart skipping with excitement, there's sadness in your heart, something like that. Now the middle train carries only thoughts, such as your evaluations, your predictions, your self-conceptualizations, and so on. And the train on the right carries your urges to act, and your pull to avoid and to look away, and your efforts to change any kind of subject. And so looking down on these 3 tracks, it can be seen kind of as a metaphor for looking at your mind. So if you like, you can, as long as you're not driving or doing anything that requires conscious attention, this will only take a couple minutes though. You can close your eyes down, finding a comfortable seat, and just sit there, breathing for a moment, in a place that you won't be disturbed. You can be quiet. And begin by thinking of something that you've been struggling with lately. Picturing those 3 tracks once you have that. Now your job will be to stay on the bridge looking down on those tracks. So if you find your mind has gone somewhere else, or if you discover that you're in one of the cars chugging along with the train and struggling with this content, such as judgment or any other negative things, just kind of come back up to the bridge and notice what has kind of hooked your attention, what's pulled you down into the train. Filing that away, and then mentally returning to that bridge over the tracks and looking down once again. Remembering that train, the tracks off to the left, that's only the present moment. And the one in the center, and that's your evaluations, your predictions, your self-conceptualizations. And the one on the right is your urge to act or to avoid, to pull, to look away. So just noticing what you notice here. Remember, present sensations, perceptions, and emotions are in the railroad car to your left. Your thoughts are in the middle. And coping strategies and urges to do something are in the train on the right. And doing your best to stay on that bridge. However, if at any time you do leave it, just notice what happened and then return to your bridge. That's right, good. And then slowly coming back to the room. just kind of noticing. So if you're anxious to do this right away, you can kind of make your own chart with those 3 columns. So you'll have your, on the left, the perceptions, sensations, and emotions that are going on in this present moment. In the center are your thoughts, kind of predictions, what's going on. And then all the way over to the right are urges and coping strategies, kind of things. So that'll be in your PDF if you want to utilize that as well. And if not, then you know how to make your own. So thank you for watching Mindful Monday on Tuesday. I hope you're having a great week. Take care and thank you.